I'm not gonna lie to you guys, here's this crazy bit of lore that I'm about to drop on you. I've always kind of been a James Franco hater. Not a big fan. Just not a fan at all. I feel like his movies are better when he's not there in them. Not his movies particularly, but you know what I mean. Movies in general. Generally speaking, I like them when he's not there. I saw this one stoner comedy. It was like a Seth Rogan thing. It was like a weed movie. I know that doesn't narrow it down, but it was so fucking bad. I've never been able to, stomach looking at the guy ever since, unless he's in something cool. But he's a pretty famous guy, so sometimes he's in something cool. But this is a video by Tell Us More about how Seth Rogan discovered that his best friend James Franco was a real pizza monster. I didn't know that he was a monster. Let's find out. I need to get learned.
How does a guy go from being one of the most popular faces in the movie business to being forgotten by everyone, even his own best friend? In the 2000s and early 2010s, James Franco was everywhere, known for his roles in films like Spider-Man, Pineapple Express, and 127 Hours, and beloved for his collaborations with his best
friend. I would still watch Spider-Man, but, he's not a focal point in Spider-Man. Whereas in Pineapple Express, you just have to look at him a lot, and it's like, damn, dude, you're quite the specimen, aren't you?
And Seth Rogan. Together, they were a comedic powerhouse, dominating the box office and earning a reputation as one of Hollywood's most dynamic duos. But behind the scenes, something darker was brewing. As Franco's star rose, so did whispers of troubling behavior, fueled by his questionable actions both on and off set. What started as minor controversies quickly snowballed into accusations that poisoned his career and relationships, including his friendship with Seth Rogan. The two had been inseparable, and their camaraderie was something special. But as the accusations piled up, Rogan found himself at a crossroads: stand by his friend or confront the uncomfortable truth. For years, James Franco was the quintessential Hollywood success story. Getting his big break playing James Dean in the 2001 biopic, Franco quickly became one of the industry's most versatile actors. He had a knack for balancing blockbuster roles with indie projects, and this made him a favorite among critics and audiences alike. He didn't just act, he lived the part, constantly pushing boundaries with the roles he chose, and this made him stand out amongst the crowd. His rise continued with the breakout success of Pineapple Express, where he starred opposite his real-life friend Seth Rogan. The two had a natural...
Dude, I remember the marketing for this movie going crazy, and I really wanted to see it, and even though I was like way too young to care about like weed or how funny it was in the weed department, it's like all about weed. Pineapple Express, it's a weed movie. I don't know if you guys knew that. But I watched it in more recent years, and this movie's not that great. It's really not their best work.
Easy chemistry, and their partnership quickly became one of Hollywood's most iconic. Pineapple Express was a massive hit, grossing over $100 million
right?
And solidifying Franco's place in the comedy mainstream. He and Seth's friendship, which began during their time on the TV show Freaks and Geeks, grew stronger as their careers took off together. They shared the same laid-back, irreverent sense of humor, which translated into their films and public appearances. Franco's versatility became more apparent.
What's going on here?
As he continued to diversify.
Don't do it, buddy. Was I going too harsh on this guy? Listen, he might have done some bad stuff. I didn't get to that part of the video. I know I was being mean.
His career. In 2010, he starred in 127 Hours, where he portrayed real-life hiker Aaron Ralston. The role earned him an Academy Award nomination for Best Actor, and the film itself was praised for its intense storytelling. It was a defining moment in Franco's career, showcasing his range as a serious actor. But at the same time, he continued to take on unconventional projects like Spring Breakers, where he played the unpredictable gangster Alien. With each role, he seemed to be
I do not remember that
as a risk-taking actor, but eventually...
And I cannot believe they're making another Spring Breakers movie. What's going on here?
...landed him in hot water. In 2014, Franco starred alongside Rogan in the film The Interview, a satirical comedy that centers on two American journalists who...
Could you imagine if we went down the timeline where this film, The Interview, starring James Franco and Seth Rogan... What if that started World War III and that's the timeline we were currently in? That would be crazy, brother. Such a shit movie. Not good.
Recruited by the CIA to assassinate North Korean leader Kim Jong-un after they score an interview with him. The film was meant to be a light-hearted political satire, filled with absurd humor and the duo's signature comedy style. However, the movie quickly became embroiled in controversy. North Korea saw the film as a direct attack on their leader and as an act of political aggression. The regime threatened violent retaliation against any theater that showed the film, even suggesting acts of terrorism. In response, major theater chains pulled the movie from their lineups, and Sony Pictures...
Listen, unintentionally based. We could have got rid of this doggone piece of shit film. But they let it back out of the bottle not too long after.
Initially cancelled its wide release. Despite the chaos, the film was eventually released digitally and in a limited number of theaters, receiving a mix of praise for its boldness and criticism for its provocative nature. Franco and Rogan were at the center of it all, and they weathered the storm together, but little did they know that things were about to get a lot worse. The same year the interview was released, reports came out about Franco's relations with an underage girl. Lucy Claude, a 17-year-old high school student from Scotland, attended the Broadway play Of Mice and Men, which Franco was starring in. She took a picture with him after the show and shared it on Instagram, tagging Franco.
You gotta tag me.
Franco saw the photo and decided to send her a direct message, and they began messaging back and forth. He didn't waste much time, as he quickly asked her whether she's 18, who she's with, and if she has a boyfriend.
Not James Franco TV, dude.
She replied,
he sounds like a YouTube channel.
She's with her mum, and she doesn't have a boyfriend if he's around. Despite knowing her age, Franco proceeded to ask which hotel she's staying at, and if he should rent a room. Lucy was in disbelief, and she began to question his identity.
She doesn't even believe it's him. She's like, shouldn't you be doing something else other than talking to me? I'm a baby.
So she asked him to take a picture of himself, holding a piece of paper with her name written on it, and he did. However, she still decided against meeting him, and after sharing the conversation with her friends, it got leaked online. News outlets ran away with the story, and Franco did an interview confessing he messed up.
I guess I'm just a model of, how social media is tricky. It's a way people meet.
It's so tricky. All these children tricking me into wanting to meet up with them, and then them being the voice of reason saying, actually, I don't think I will.
Each other today, but what I've learned, I guess just because I'm new to it, it's like you don't know who's on the other end, so I use bad judgment, and it...
Where Chris Hansen at, dude? He's already sitting, but he needs to have a seat.
Learn my lesson.
Initially, a lot of people thought the whole thing was a marketing tactic for his new movie Palo Alto, where he plays a soccer coach who seduces his 14-year-old babysitter. But
Huh? Why would you even play that in a... Anyway, I guess he's a serious actor, guys.
True. He was 36 when this happened, so it was a very creepy move, and it put some of his previous behavior in a new light, such as this picture of him hugging a 15-year-old girl from behind. Franco didn't help his image with an Instagram post he made less than a month later, where he could be seen sweating, half naked, with his hand down his boxers. It was all giving very seedy vibes, and being his best friend, Seth Rogan decided to tease him for it during an appearance he made on SNL.
Being his friend, we were gonna talk about it on television.
Wednesday, 3 p.m.
You've been acting weird, buddy, and this is the appropriate avenue. I've decided to bring it up.
Out loud, I didn't feel like I did great, so to make myself feel better, I decided to prank James Franco. I posed as a girl on Instagram.
That's all you need. He'll hit you up.
Told him I was way young.
Oh my.
He seemed unfazed. I have a date to meet him at the Ace Hotel.
As you can see, he made light of the situation at the time, but that was something he came to regret. In 2017, Franco made the movie The Disaster Artist.
Yeah, that's like what I would do if I planned to never have you associate with me again after I roast your ass on TV. They still made movies after that? That's crazy.
Which tells the story of the making of The Room, a cult film notorious for being one of the worst.
I've never actually seen The Room, but The Disaster Artist made me lose any interest in seeing what the actual movie is like. The Disaster Artist is so secondhand horrible that this cannot even be in a funny framing, because it's just going to remind me of that piece of shit and James Franco.
Franco plays Tommy Wiseau, the strange and mysterious man behind the film. His performance as Wiseau was amazing, but it caused serious problems on set.
It's like they just took a niche fucking joke and made a whole thing about it, reframing it as their own joke. That's what it came off as anyway.
He stayed in
to someone who's never seen the original.
Rolling, talking and acting like Wiseau all the time, and this made it very difficult for others to work with him or speak with him just as Franco. Rogan worked with him on the film, and even he found it uncomfortable, saying, "I couldn't deal with it, straight up, for the first 2 days. People would come up to me and ask me, 'Where's James?' And I was like, 'He's right fucking there.'" Franco had a habit of being difficult to work with due to his method acting. For example, Tyrese Gibson still hates him after the experience he had working with him on the movie Annapolis, due to Franco repeatedly punching him in the face for real during their fight scenes. However, James's method acting antics didn't seem to hold him back professionally, because his performance in The Disaster Artist earned him a Golden Globe for Best Actor. It was here though, at the point that was supposed to be the highlight of his career, that everything came crashing down. You see, when Franco took the stage, he was wearing a Time's Up pin. This was to show support for the Me Too movement, which was in full swing at the time, but all the pin ended up doing was paint a target on his back. Shortly after his win, several women came forward accusing him
fuck is Time's Up?
Of sexually exploitative behavior. Cute Time's Up pin, James Franco. Remember the time you pushed my head down in a car towards your exposed penis? And the other time you told my friend to come to your hotel when she was 17?
I'm assuming it's just like an ally thing for the Me Too movement or associated thing. Oh my god, and it just like made people come out and say that he's not a good advocate. That's crazy. But I suppose not that surprising, since he seems like a Hollywood playboy type.
After you had already been caught doing that to a different...
There was a boxing ring for a second.
James Franco,
yeah, you trying to hop in?
Up pin at the Golden Globes. Remember a few weeks ago when you told me the full nudity you had me do in 2 of your movies for $100 a day wasn't exploitative because I signed a contract to do it? Time's up on that. Franco was quick to issue a public response, appearing on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert just 2 days after winning the Golden Globe, and Seth Meyers' show a day after that.
The things that I heard that were on Twitter are not accurate.
Well, the ones I read were not accurate.
The way I live my life, I can't live if there's restitution to be made. I will make it.
I have my own side of this story, but I believe in, you know, these people that have been underrepresented, getting their stories out enough that I will, you know, hold back things that I could say just because I believe in it that much. And if I have to take a knock because I'm not gonna, you know, try and, you know, actively refute things, then I will, because I believe in it that much.
People in the comments gave him credit for going on the shows despite knowing he'd be asked about the allegations, and the general sentiment was that he was innocent until proven guilty. However, just after he made these appearances, a bombshell investigation was reported on by the LA Times, where 5 women accused Franco of inappropriate or sexually exploitative behavior. Most of these women were students of Franco's at one point or another. They said he would abuse his position of power to get the girls into sexually compromising positions, often by using the promise of job opportunities in his upcoming projects. One woman who he taught in 2012 said that at first she thought he was a really generous spirit, but her feelings changed after she was selected to appear in one of his art films. Apparently, the shoot was at a strip club, where Franco approached her and the other woman and asked them, "So who wants to take their shirt off?" storming off after no one volunteered. One of the other women there said he was
storming off is crazy.
Things got worse when he opened his acting school Studio 4 in 2014, where he got access to way more young, aspiring actresses. One woman said that for years she received mass email requests from Franco to audition for roles playing a prostitute or a hooker. Apparently he was relentless, and he even had a program called Franco's Sex Scenes Masterclass, which facilitated this kind of behavior. One of the women to write the tweets about him, Sarah Tither Kaplan, attended one of these classes and shot a short film where she appeared nude. The film was uploaded to Vimeo, but in 2017 she discovered images from it on at least one porn site. She also had another horrible experience after she accepted a small role in one of Franco's low-budget movies.
I don't even know what I'm allowed to say. That's the scary thing, is like I'm terrified for my career.
Sarah was a student in Franco's acting class. She says she agreed to appear nude in Franco's low-budget movie, but was taken aback when she was asked to appear in a bonus scene involving an orgy.
It was a lot of nudity and sex scenes that I felt were not artistically justified and were added in after the fact.
She alleged that as part of the scene, she and a handful of other women were selected to appear with Franco, who simulated performing oral sex on each of them. However, he removed a clear plastic guard that covered their vaginas and continued to simulate the sex act with no protection. Sarah commented saying she got it in her head pretty quickly that, okay, you don't say no to this guy, which summed up the experience of Franco's next alleged victim, Violet Paley. Violet wasn't a student of Franco's, but more so
stop letting this guy teach. He does not have the teaching license.
Mentee. She was in recovery for substance abuse when they met through a mutual friend, and Franco took an interest in her writing. Eventually, their relationship turned romantic, and very early on, he allegedly pressured her into performing oral sex on him, an act she'd never done with him at that point. She said, I was talking to him, all of a sudden his penis was out. I got really nervous and I said, can we do this later? He was kind of nudging my head down and I just didn't want him to hate me, so I did it.
Because of the power dynamic, this situation was so surreal and I wanted him to like me.
Clearly, Franco had no issue with abusing his position of authority to get what he wanted. Another troubling situation occurred with his personal assistant, who spoke about how he has a real dark side.
He's definitely got two personalities. That doesn't mean he doesn't have a great sweet side, but when he has his other side, it's the complete polar opposite.
What the
Tatiana
fuck?
was Franco's
That's not good.
assistant.
That means you're out of balance all the time if you have two sides like this.
2011 to 2013.
Two definitive sides?
She says she also had a romantic relationship with him until 2016. She shared text messages in which he used abusive language. And
That's crazy, dude.
Was going to stand by his side. During an interview with Vulture in April 2018, 3 months after the news came out, Seth Rogan was asked, is it fair to say that the allegations didn't change anything about your willingness to work with him in the future? And he responded saying yes. From this point, things were quiet for a while, and Franco kept a low profile. But in October of the following year, he got hit where it hurts. Two of his former students, Sarah Tither Kaplan and Tony Gall, filed a lawsuit against him and two other men who worked alongside him at Studio 4. The lawsuit alleged that Franco sought to create a pipeline of young women who were subjected to his personal and professional sexual exploitation in the name of education. They were seeking an unspecified amount of damages, and for any videos of sex scenes from Studio 4 to be destroyed. Franco's lawyer denied the accusations and called the lawsuit ill-informed, saying that James will not only defend himself, but will also seek damages from the plaintiffs and their attorneys for filing this scurrilous, publicity-seeking lawsuit. However, in February 2021, it was reported that a settlement had been reached, with Franco and his business partners agreeing to pay over $2.2 million. Before legal fees,
I don't see how that was a publicity stunt if there was that much money at stake, dude. Freaking, it seems pretty, like you're running a creepy ass fucking school brothel.
$70,500
allegedly
went to Sarah Tither Kaplan, $223,500 went to Tony Gall, and the rest went to other students of the school who were affected. As part of the settlement, Franco didn't admit any wrongdoing, but his reputation was irreversibly damaged. 3 months after the settlement was reached,
What's really important is how Seth Rogan feels about this. Please lock in, boys.
Did an interview with the Sunday Times where he said he has no future plans to work with Franco. He said, what I can say is that I despise abuse and harassment, and I would never cover or conceal the actions of someone doing it, or knowingly put someone in a situation where they're around someone like that. He also explained that he has two regrets, saying, I do look back at the joke I made on SNL in 2014, and I very much regret making that joke. It was a terrible joke, honestly. And I also look back to that interview in 2018 where I comment that I would keep working with James. And the truth is, I haven't, and I don't plan to right now. Later that year, Franco did an interview where he finally opened up about everything that happened, including where things were at with Seth.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like the joke wasn't that bad, but what's bad is that he didn't cut him off after the joke, even though he would seemingly know that it was the right thing to do, but I don't know.
Say, I absolutely love Seth Rogan. I worked with him for 20 years.
Okay.
We didn't have one fight. For 20 years, not one fight. He was my...
All right, I don't care about this. Freaking shout out, Tell Us More, for telling us all of this. I'll link this full video in the description, dude. How do you feel about James Franco and Seth Rogen's films? Or them as people? Let me know in the comments.